Avtar Meher Baba ki Jai. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. This is Mandalay Hall, Merazad. I'm here with Meherwan Jessawala on Duni Day, December, 3Ds, the 12th of December, 1994. This is the 21st tape of this series of reminiscences of life with the Divine Beloved Meher Baba. Last time you had talked about up to the earlier part of the year 1967. I think you have some more things from that time.
We were talking about my stay at Merazad in 1967 and about Bill visiting us during that time. And I think we covered most of the things of that time, except that I remembered later that I left out a thing, and that was that one during his stay, Bill had brought a sculpted head of Baba from Australia. It was given to him by John Bruford, and a very beautiful piece of sculpting was done by him with great love and perseverance. He had some handicaps also, and still he created a masterpiece, I think, and had given it to Bill to carry it personally. And so when Bill came here, he presented this little bust of Baba to Baba. And when Baba saw it, he was mighty pleased with the thing. And he said it was really perfectly done. And then asked Bill to send his love to John and say that the perfect one was really happy with his perfect work. So it was a great compliment too. And indeed it was really nicely done. One of the very few sculptures that really resemble Baba and brings out the features of Baba very nicely. So that is now kept in the blue bus here at Merazad.
Oh, that's
the one. That white, I don't know what material it is, probably plaster of Paris or whatever. So an exact duplicate cast of it was then sent again, and that is now lying in the museum at Meherabad. So we have two identical pieces. But this one was the one that Baba saw and liked it very much.
How did Baba, do you recall or know, respond to some of the statues that were made of him at various times?
Well, frankly, nobody liked most of the statues. There was one made at Kovur, and the artist had come several times. Baba had given him sitting, but I heard that people were not very happy with the outcome of it. So it's really very difficult to bring out Baba, the exact features of Baba in a sculpture. But this seemed to be quite close.
But Baba did seem to, if he gave sittings, was quite
in fact,
open to people trying.
In fact, Baba had given casts of his hand and feet. You know the cast of the feet that you see here. It was for the sculpture that was to be done at Kovur, I think. So and about the hands it was, I think, earlier, but the feet I remember. I remember this man coming to take the casts of Baba's hands and feet, and Baba was having this in plaster, and Deshmukh was there at Guru Prasad as usual and he wanted to take Baba's photograph with all this cast, Baba's hands and feet in the car. And Baba says, in this condition, you want to take my photo? And he had brought some new camera with 3-dimensional effect or something, with 3 lenses protruding. And he insisted upon taking a photograph. And I think he took it, but I don't know what happened, whether the photo came out or not. So Baba says, I would look like a leper with all these casts upon my hand and feet. Why do you want to take me like this? But Deshmukh was insistent. Yeah, irrepressible. Yeah, so this caste was brought and Baba liked it very much. And another thing that happened at that time was there was a Baba stalwart named, what was his name? Sardar Amar Singh Saigal. And he was a very ardent Baba lover. But in his earlier life, he was a revolutionary and had gone to jail several times during the British Raj, and he was a great friend of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister of India. So after independence, of course, there were elections, and he stood for election and he was brought with a big majority. And ever since then, every time there would be elections, he would stand for the elections and get easily elected, because he was very popular in his constituency and he was very sincere in his approach with the electorate also. So they all loved him and he would be elected each time.
Where was he from?
From, I think, UP. From UP or Punjab, I'm not sure, but in northern India, one of the northern states. I think it was Madhya Pradesh. I'm sorry. Yeah, Madhya Pradesh. He was from Madhya Pradesh. I think Bhopal or something.
And although a Singh, and he must have had a lot of, Hindus and Muslims in his constituency, he was quite popular.
But he was a very honest and sincere person. His honesty was such, and his devotion to Baba was such, that there was a parliamentary delegation which had to go to Iran and other places. So that's what I heard from Aloba, I think, that when he went there, of course there would be 5-star receptions for them, for their boarding and lodging. So he wouldn't stay there. He would seek out Baba people and would want to stay at their homes, howsoever humble they could be, just spurning all the luxury that was available to him. But yeah, he preferred to stay with Baba people and enjoy Baba stories in their houses, to spend the night with them and all that. So such was his devotion for the Lord. And unreservedly he would speak of Baba anywhere he went. So at that time when he was alive, many government dignitaries came to hear about Baba, and they would preside. Even these dignitaries would come to preside over Baba's functions, like birthday functions or Silence Day anniversaries. So a lot of Baba movement was taking place in these higher circles, as long as Amar Singh was alive. But thereafter, it just fizzled out, yeah. So Baba must be having some work to do with those people there, yeah. Because of the early leaders, because of probably their sacrifice and all that for the nation, they underwent great hardships, unlike the present leaders that we have, unfortunately. So Amar Singh said, in this time, again it was time for the parliamentary elections, and Sardar Amar Singh Saigal had again stood for election. But being so very honest, it doesn't pay to be an honest politician. If you want to meet both ends, then you've got to be a real politician. But Saigal Sahab was more of a Baba politician than an earthly one. So he was in extremely stringent financial circumstances. And in India, of course, you need a lot of wealth and money, power to project yourself before the electorate, to tour all these places and to let them know that you are there, that standing for the election. Just to let your name be heard, there's so much expense. He didn't have that kind of funds. Anyway, he just went on in his own old style, and whomsoever he could meet, he would be addressing meetings. So Baba would be discussing with us in the hall here that I don't think Saigal will come this time. He has no money. How can he get elected? And Pendu was the great protagonist, or what do you call it? Of Saigal. He said, no Baba, he must come, and he's going to come. And Baba said, but how is it possible? He has no funds, he can't travel and can't reach the people. So how will they hear of him? So Pendu would always be just siding with him, and Baba would say, no hope this time. But I don't think he'll come this time. And there would be always this little tussle going on. So it would be a topic of conversation in the hall at that time. And one day the election results were out and the counting was going on, and the initial results were pouring in, and Saigal's rival was capturing all the votes, as it were. And he was leading by a huge margin. And Baba sent word to Pendu, see, I told you there's no hope this time. Just forget it now. But Pendu stayed glued to his set, And then the other constituencies results were started to come in, where they were all for him. So from way behind, he caught up with his rival and then came with a good majority and won the election. And you should see the joy on Pendu's face. Yeah, like a small kid, as if it was a victory for him. And we all were happy about this. So it was quite a topic at that time.
I don't know how it is in India, but in the United States, an incumbent is always in a position to get lots and lots of money for campaigning. So if he really didn't have money, he must have been an honest man indeed.
Indeed, yeah. That's what I wanted you to specifically note, that he never took a penny from anybody or spent it in a wrong way, and living up to Baba's words in the real sense of it. Yeah, that is why then he had no funds, but still the people realized his worth, and the Indian electorate is very, very wise in this way. We see election results always, although most of the electorate is illiterate, still it has some sort of a horse sense in it to elect good people. But the selection is so limited these days that invariably we do not get good leaders now.
Yeah, the high quality that was there then.
That is missing. Unfortunately, we don't have that caliber now. But still, being Baba's birthplace, somehow the Indian democracy is rolling on, It's a great miracle that it is surviving all odds.
Baba seems to have had a little handful of former revolutionaries. Saigal and Pukar,
Kumar, all these people.
I mean, real former firebrands.
Yeah.
All of whom he seems to have tamed.
Yeah. And made lambs from lions. Yeah, so this about covers my visit to Meherazad at that time. And then, of course, it was time for me to return back to Pune. And as I said, Baba had sent out a circular extending his seclusion. While I was at Meherazad, I think I mentioned that Baba asked me that supposing I do not see Pune lovers this time, would they mind it? And I would say to Baba, no Baba, I'm sure everybody would be happy to carry out your wishes. So he would say, you think so? I would say, yes Baba, certainly they would want to do whatever you would like them to do. So then Baba was happy about it. He kept asking me several times, I remember. And then eventually a circular was sent out that Baba was going to continue his seclusion and nobody must disturb him. And he wanted a totally undisturbed stay at Guru Prasad. So this is how the Guru Prasad stay of 67 began.
Meherwan, if I could ask a question here.
Yeah.
I mean, this is 1967 now. Had it ever occurred to you that Baba would be dropping his body soon? Did that ever cross your mind?
No.
But it seems that so many of his close ones, it was such a complete surprise when it happened.
Yeah.
And yet to look at it externally, I mean, his health was, he was a man.
Yeah.
His health was getting worse and worse all the time. It would seem like a sort of a logical thing to expect. Why did no one ever...
Because you see, we had seen Baba in such frail circumstances so often, and we would see that he would just come out of that phase. So it appeared to us that Baba was passing through this phase of intense seclusion work, which was having its effect on his body. And probably after the work would be over and he had sufficient rest or something, that Baba would just somehow get over this phase and be back again in his normal health and all that. So actually for me it was a complete surprise. Because although towards the last few days of his earthly life, some sort of a premonition would keep happening within us. And we would have this sort of uneasy feeling about Baba. Yeah. But we would just brush those feelings aside as something that we shouldn't give much attention to. But his health was really very bad in the last few months. And constantly in the back of our minds, it would weigh very heavily upon us. At least upon me, it would weigh very heavily. Although I was not here, not close enough, but still that pressure would be felt, somehow. Yeah, at the back of our minds, that would be there. Baba is not well. And when it progressively went worse, this was there, but never had any thought come into us that just Baba would just slip away like that, as it were.
Had it ever in your life, had you ever thought about that you might have to live on beyond his life?
No, we never gave a thought to that. But I would remember Baba would be here and Baba would say, I'm going to pass away. Very often he would say, I'm fed up, yeah. So towards the end, he was really getting more and more tired. The burden was simply unbearable and in the end stages. But somehow we felt that this could be a passing phase too. Yeah, that was the hope that kept us going, until then. Yes, so as I said, that the seclusion would be continued was the circular that was sent out, and especially Pune lovers were requested that it was a great responsibility upon them that they should see that Baba's seclusion remained absolutely undisturbed, because they were the people who could make or mar the seclusion. Being so close, they had just to walk into the compound and it could be a disturbance for him. So they, realizing this, the Pune lovers just stuck firmly to what Baba had wanted, and there was no such incident that we recollect of any violation of Baba's wishes. Yeah. So that was a great credit for the Pune lovers, and they obeyed Baba 100% in this respect. In fact, Baba, when he came to Guru Prasad, those boards which I mentioned were put up here and on the caravan. So the caravan boards were taken to Guru Prasad, and these boards were put up there, just outside the front veranda. Baba stopped seeing or giving darshan to anyone in all these three languages, English, Hindi, I think, and Marathi. So if any stray people wanted to just come and have darshan, they could be intimidated by these three notices glaring at them in red and white. So Baba came very quietly to Guru Prasad. I remember it was all very quiet. Just a few of us who were allowed to come were there to receive him. And this visit was very marked by Baba beginning to walk again. So on the very day he came, he had a good brisk walk on the veranda, would ask us how he was walking, and we said we were very happy to see him walk like this as of old, with just his arm resting lightly on Francis or any Airach or some other mandali to give balance. Otherwise he was walking very well. And besides, we noticed that his neck pain also had disappeared, or probably it was almost not there, and there was no need for the collar again.
Had he not been walking over the previous months?
He was off and on doing it, complaining of pain. The neck pain was there, the hip joint pain. But when he started this day, this new phase seemed to have taken over, as it were. And Baba was seeming to start physical exercise, it seems. Yeah. So I also remember that Airach would make him do physical exercises in the Mandali hall, and one of the things was for him to kick a bedding roll placed near his foot like this, so that it would strengthen his muscles, the thigh and muscles and all that, and various other exercises. We had put up a bar for Baba to do push-ups and all that in the Guru Prasad Mandali hall, across the doorway. Yeah. So all these little things were there. And there was a room upstairs where Bhau used to stay. So I remember in the earlier days also, Baba would exercise climbing the steps, a few of the steps. So bamboo was put across the banisters and were tied with cloth, so Baba could hold the cloth binding and climb up. So all these exercises Baba would do.
Well, must have been encouraging for all of you to see Baba.
Yeah. So he was taking interest in it. Otherwise, physical exercise Baba never liked to do. He would just rush through all of them. If he had to do these arm exercises, he would do just a couple of times and say, "Now I've done it." And Gaur would say, "Baba, but this is not it. We have to repeat it so often and all that." So he says, "No, it's enough."
So he was a bad patient in that respect.
Yeah, about exercising. But when the time came for him to do something and he had something in mind, then it would be different. Then he would do it on his own. So he, as I said, he walked very well. And a few days later he says, he asked Eraj to call Dr. Ginde. I want to show him how I walk, he said. So Dr. Ginde was called, and of course, as soon as he received the message, he came post haste, and Baba then walked with him on the veranda. And Baba was walking so fast, and as you know, Ginde was a heart patient, so he began to become breathless. A couple of rounds and he was breathing heavily. And Baba, I think, just then stopped and said, "Well, how do you think of my walk?" And he was ecstatic about it. He says, "Baba, I've never seen you walk like this in my life before." Of course, he hadn't seen Baba walk in the old days. So it reminded us of old days, but he had never seen Baba in this condition. So he was delighted, and he said, "Baba, this is great. I really am surprised how this is. It's a miracle. Medically, it is not possible that you could walk like this." But so he was all praise for Baba's walk. And this would continue, and Baba would increase his pace and walk faster. But unfortunately, what happened was that this vigorous walking one day caused a sprain in his back, and he suddenly developed a catch in one of the back muscles, and that brought an end to this little resurrected golden phase, as it were. So the catch was so bad that even to breathe was a painful thing. If you have a very severe catch, any movement, even your breathing movement, could cause very much discomfort in the back. So Baba was now again back to on his chair, and wheelchair had to be again started, and he had to stop walking altogether.
Oh, that must have been disheartening.
Yeah.
For everyone.
So then all sorts of household remedies were tried out. Some said you should put this, some said this. Somebody suggested to foment the back with an electric iron. This is a remedy which we used to do at home. Eraj would get sprained back very often. Eraj previously was very, very strong, but one day, I think during the must tours or what, he lifted a very heavy weight, and he had this sudden crink in his back, and he had a very bad back ever since then. So very often Eraj would get this catch in the back, and he still has it sometimes. So we would, when he would get this, apply this hot iron, and he would feel very, very nice about it. So we suggested this to Baba. So Baba says, "All right, anything that could give me relief." So there was a couch which was put in the Mandli hall, and Baba would lie down on that, and then Pendu would heat up the electric iron and then bring it and massage Baba's back. So sometimes Pendu would start talking with us and leave the hand there, and Baba was getting hurt, and he was signing to Pendu, and he wasn't moving the iron fast enough. And Baba would get annoyed with him. That, "Don't you see it's hurting me?" Baba would gesture. Yeah. So after that, then we were, I think Eraj would rub some liniment to soothe out the muscle. And then when he would get up, then Gaver had sent an elastic waistband. So Baba would stand up and then Eraj would wrap this waistband tightly around Baba. We would hold him and then Baba would be thrust up there and that would give support to his back. And then Baba would walk slowly to his chair and all that. So this continued for quite a few days, but eventually the spasm eased up and he started to walk again. And then he resumed walking all over again. So that was a great relief to all of us. Yeah.
You know, during this, I had always heard that in the later years Baba would go into seclusion and pound his thumb.
Yeah.
Was it that period?
No, it is still to come, a little later.
Did you at that time have any idea what Baba would do, even externally, during his seclusion?
I'll tell you all about that. It's a very grim and somber phase of his seclusion that will follow later. So, but at least till this time, this was not yet being done, and it will come a little later. So, now we are having a quiet stay at Guru Prasad, and Baba had given me permission to visit Guru Prasad any time I would get to come over. So when of course Baba's meals would be prepared at Bindra House, so I would have to do the marketing and all that daily. So after attending to that and other household work, then I would rush over to Guru Prasad in the mornings and be with Baba for an hour or two and then go to office from there. So I remember that period when I had a great deal of closeness with Baba, because there was nobody allowed to come at that time, and I was allowed to come more often also. And on the weekends also I would be there, and we would play cards with Baba in a quiet way. Yeah, the usual Laris game. But none of that raucous stuff, of shoutings and all that. It's a sort of quiet affair, yeah. So that summer was unusually hot, I remember. And so it was just as well that Baba didn't have to wear the collar, as I said earlier, because the heat was great and it would have really been very uncomfortable for him. And at Meherazad, we got news that all the sources of water had dried up. The well was almost dry. So, and many of the trees died, big trees, because they couldn't stand up to the scorching heat. And some of the mango trees, which, Baba, when he went on the must tours, the musts would give him something to eat, and Baba would eat that. So some must had given him mangoes to eat. So Baba had eaten these mangoes, and there were 6 or 7 of these mango stones that were left. So Baba brought those along and had them planted in a row down here. And just one tree you see there, that mango tree, is the lone survivor of several of those trees that were there. So in this drought, many of those trees died. And so the Padri was here, and then he sent word and he said, Baba, could we have a bore well done here? So Baba gave the permission. So a bore site was selected where one of the trees' space was vacant, and they started to bore, and they went down 50 feet, no water. They went down further, and up almost they went 80 feet, but not a drop of water could be located. So I remember we were at Guru Prasad, and I think Adi's phone came. Padri sent word to Adi what is to be done. So he phoned Guru Prasad, and Erich was there, and he asked Erich, what should we do now? There is no water being struck. So Baba was in the hall, and Erich came and asked him and said, Baba, what should we do now? They are asking. So Baba just thought for a while and said, let them go 10 or 15 feet more. Don't stop the boring. Let them go further down. So the message was relayed, and work was resumed here. And in another 3 or 4 feet, they got good gushing water from the bore. So that saved the day for Meherazad, because that was now the new source of water. And it helped to tide over the terrible drought of that year, because the lake had completely dried up, just as we see now. Yeah, even worse, it was all flaked up. And now at least we see some green growth on there, but at that time we could see big square and odd sort of shapes of earth, with big cracks in them. Yeah, and anything could go over it, even heavy vehicles. It was so dry, almost bone dry. Yeah.
Is this well is the one still active over there, right?
No, unfortunately, this drought has finished it also now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's present drought.
Present drought. So it's the first time that this bore well has failed us now in all these years. Otherwise, Meherazad drinking water was from this bore all these years.
So 27 years until 1994.
Yeah. Until we struck that bore well, which is now called the Amazing Grace. And that's supplying water, and it's the only source left now. Yeah. So, and many wells are drying up. Even 3 or 4 days back, one of our neighbors, his bore suddenly turned absolutely dry. So they are now quite worried. Yeah, he's a farmer and has his farm and animals, and they don't even have drinking water left. And the summer hasn't started yet. Yeah. So it's quite grim this year. So, any case, the water was struck, and it was the water was sent for testing, and it was very pure, good water, and free from any contamination. Because at that time, Meherazad was not being frequented much, so there was actually no source of contamination anyway, and we had good clear water. So the Guru Prasad stay was going along quite quietly, and it did appear that Baba would not give any darshan this year. But in the last few days, Baba gave out that he wanted his Pune lovers to come and see him walk. So, as a sort of, I think, reward for the meticulous way that they kept away from Guru Prasad all these months, I think. And Baba was walking nicely, so he wanted to show the Pune people how he was walking. So Baba said that we will arrange it in such a way that the day prior to my leaving, we'll divide it into two days. So on the first day, the women and the children should come, and on the second day, the day of my departure, the men lovers can come and they will can see me walk. So it was announced, and there was great jubilation amongst Pune lovers. And so on the appointed day, first of course, the day prior to his departure, the women and children were there. And as I said, Guru Prasad has this veranda all round. So Baba's room was on the western side, and from the front porch, the people were standing on either side of the veranda, right across, and then turn and right up to Mandli Hall. So they were all standing there on either side, the women and children. And Baba was in his bedroom there. And early morning, it was, I think, about 7 a.m. or so. And so at the appointed time, the bedroom door was opened, and Baba strode out from his bedroom, supported by Francis, I think. And he took great big strides, and before the women could realize what was happening, he just strode across in a flash, so fast that you'll see in one of the films, I think it was filmed at that time, that Francis is running to keep pace with Baba. And Baba is striding along his usual old-time strides, and just floating in there, as it were. And he was just gone in a jiffy, as it were, and entered the Mandli Hall, and that was it. And he said, "Now ask all of them to go back." And they barely realized. Some of them I hardly saw Baba, I think. So fast he walked,
So that was the whole darshan then?
That was the darshan. And they were all very happy, of course, to see Baba walk, but it was like putting a drop of water in an extremely thirsty person, It just whets your appetite all the more for your thirst, and that's it. Now you go back. But they had to go back, and Baba wouldn't see anybody after that. And the next day, of course, the men's turn was there, and they came to ask me that would I accompany Baba for the walk. So I felt quite scared about this, and I said, no, I would rather wish some senior Mandli would do this. I feel incompetent for this task. So then it was decided that an old-time Baba disciple named Sadashiv Patil, they selected him. So he was the one who escorted Baba for the second performance, And it was totally a repeat performance of the first day. Baba again strode out. This time, of course, the men were on either side, and before they could wink a couple of winks, Baba had just gone past, whizzed past, as it were, and he just disappeared from their sight. And they were left in stunned silence, as it were. Yeah, it was a real sight to watch, or even for us, because Baba never walked that fast. So I think that he was just preparing this whole stay of his to give these two performances, as it were, and slipping away from their sight. I think for the final slip away that he did,
This was the last time a lot of them would ever have seen him physically.
Yeah, that's right. So he just slipped away this way, A very slippery customer, I must say.
But a last impression of Baba and his strength. And
yeah, that's right.
So weak and
yeah, so that was what they carried in their minds when they returned home. And that was it. They had to go back. And then a few hours, an hour or so later, Baba also left for Meherazad. And that was the end of the Guru Prasad stay. Except, I forgot to mention that there was one exception during this entire stay, and that was a visit to Bindra house. Yeah. So, I think it was just a few days before Baba declared about this calling the Pune lovers that he told Eraj that he wanted to visit Bindra house. Of course, in the earlier years, he would visit Bindra house most frequently. The most he ever went anywhere else was Bindra house from Guru Prasad. But this year it was just one visit. So, as usual, it was afternoon, and Eraj, myself, and I think probably Meji or one or two other Mandali were there, and we accompanied Baba to Bindra house. So Baba came, and have you ever been to Bindra house?
Yeah.
You have? So you remember the hall where you would all be sitting?
Hall,
yeah, the middle hall.
Oh, the main space.
Yeah, the main space, yeah. And there was that little table there and a little reclining chair. So that's where Baba came and sat, straight in the hall. And then he met all of us at Bindra house. He called each one by turn, embraced them. And then he just said that call the neighbors. So we had this neighbor by the name Julia Alvarez. So first,
Julia, is it a Westerner?
She was a Goanese Christian. So they were our neighbors. They actually were staying in Bindra house even earlier to us. So way back in the 40s. Yeah, they had just one room in the ground floor. The rest of the ground floor we were occupying. So they were a very happy-go-lucky couple, and had 5 children in that one room. But extremely contented and happy people. Yeah, most of the Goanese, they are like that. They drink, eat, and are always merry. So she was called, I remember, and it was a rare thing because Baba never called anybody. So then she was called, and then Baba said to call the landlady. So for the first time, she was called down, the landlady. She was, her name was Sheila Bindra. Bindra house is from their surname Bindra. So she came down, and then Baba blessed all of them also. So this was going to be his last visit, which we hadn't realized then. So he was giving his darshan to all who were residing there.
Had he met Mrs. Bindra before?
No, never.
First time?
First time, yeah. Julia, he would sometimes see, because she had a window which was opening out on the veranda, and Baba would pass by from the veranda, so sometimes he would peep in and see them. Yeah. So I think she had seen Baba previously, but Mrs. Bindra, I think, was for the first time. Yeah. So this was the last time that Baba visited Bindra house, which at that time we didn't know, of course. And we had newly bought that fridge which you see now in the trust office, in our dining room.
That thing was bought in 1967?
Yeah, it was bought second hand then, but in a good condition, of course. So Mama showed it to Baba. Baba, we've got this fridge. And Baba opened the door, he liked it. It's nice. It was a Frigidaire make of General Motors. Nice sturdy thing. And and the original machine lasted for years thereafter. until very recently it broke down. So these old time machines were built to last, I think.
Right, like that Chevrolet that still runs.
Yeah, it's just
1947.
even the old time human machines were built to last. So they weren't mass produced, I think, at that time. So everything was being made nicely with good time spent to make each machine. So each body had got more time to to come out, and it used to last for a century, I think.
Yeah, your mother was close to that.
So this is the fast age now of mass production. And probably Baba wants it that way so that more people can get his contact before the 100 years elapse,
Yeah.
Anyway, so this was the memorable last physical darshan that Bindra House had. And then, of course, Baba left. And then followed this exhibition of the walk. And that was it.
While the subject of Bindra House is up here, perhaps for the last time,
Yeah.
There was some story that Mani had told when you left it and it was sold and then destroyed, right?
Yeah.
Would you like to tell that account about where one time previously the landlord had tried to evict you all or something?
I think I told that to you, no?
You might have. You might have given kind of that.
When my father died, that was way back in 1959. In May 1959, my father died. So after that, the landlord one day calls me up to his house there, and he says, "Look, now your father has expired, and it is time you people now find some other accommodation. You see, I have a big daughter who is in her final MBBS course. That is the course for becoming a doctor. They call it MBBS here, which is Bachelor of Medicine. So she would be passing out, and then I would want this lower ground floor for my daughter to open a hospital here. That was my original plan. So won't you people want to help me in this?" So I said, "Well, I'll ask my elder brother and then consult him and let you know." And then I went over to Guru Prasad and told Erach what the landlord had just told me. And Baba was sitting in the hall inside, and he heard me talk to Erach, and so he said, "What's going on there? Come on in and let me into what's happening." So I told Baba all this. And Erach said that, "Well, Baba, we can always tell him that he should find some accommodation for us, and we'll depart in peace. We don't want to create trouble for him." So Baba says, "Fair enough. But let's see who leaves first, whether he goes or we go. Who knows?" It's just a casual remark Baba passed, And thereafter, I talked to the landlord, saying that, "Look, if you can get us some good accommodation similar to this, we are prepared to help you in your project." So it was actually impossible for him to get any accommodation for us. So it was a nice way of saying no. So what he did was to make an agreement with me. He said, "I'll give you 4 years' time to vacate, and then you should vacate. By that time you make some arrangement." So I again consulted the lawyer, and he said, "Go ahead and sign the agreement. It's a good thing, because for 4 years he can never get you out, and after 4 years the Rent Act is such that this agreement is null and void. So I signed the agreement on all his terms in there, that after 4 years he must vacate and this and that. And after 4 years he never asked me again. And it so happened that just before we vacated, he died. So he was the first to go. So what Baba said very casually in Guru Prasad, that struck me at this time. Baba just said, who knows whether he goes first or we go, and this is what Baba had seen, foreseen, yes, in such a casual way.
What finally did happen that made you go? Of course, he died first.
Then he died, and at that time they quietly sold off the place to a building contractor. So these contractors then, buying the property, they come and negotiate with the tenants and arrange for them to have some compensation or some alternate accommodation, because they have a lot of flats with them. So that's how they asked us to vacate. And then they broke the whole place and made it into a big housing complex now. Yeah.
So it seems when a number of the places with which Baba is so associated have just finished. Guru Prasad finished.
Yeah, that's
Vindra House finished.
Yeah. Of course, there's a small memorial hall which commemorates Guru Prasad. So it's still there and it has a nice atmosphere. Baba's chair is there. So people who go there, they like the place and the atmosphere, because it is built from the stones and the tiles which were used for Baba's bedroom. So the outer veranda consists of Baba's bedroom tiles. Yeah, the floor. And inside there is marble tiles which were on the veranda of Guru Prasad originally. Yeah. The entire front and veranda floorings were of marble at Guru Prasad. Even the steps leading up from the porch, they were solid Italian marble and with pink granite pillars. So these same granite pillars have been used for the memorial.
Oh, it seems like such a pity the thing was torn down.
Yeah, can't help it. Okay, so we'll go for tea. Jai Baba. Jai Baba.
All right, it's after tea time.
Yeah.
And I was just noticing in this frame.
Now I see that red light coming on there.
Oh.
I wonder, can you see it here? Just come ahead and see. Just below your tube.
Yeah, I can.
That wasn't there.
Well, mine's on also. Well, it was recording.
I wonder what it is. Anyway.
I do too.
Okay, so.
Well, the red light mystery. Well, one of these things to haunt us in the future. So you just talked about the Baba's last visit to Vindra House.
Yeah.
This is 1967.
Yes, so that was the end of Baba's Guru Prasad stay in 1967. A very quiet affair, but it ended with a bang. As I said, Baba just giving a burst of speed, as it were, in his walk and just slipping out of everybody's view. A sort of signal that what was to follow in a couple of years, I think. Yeah. In fact, the Pune Center Secretary Ramakrishna did comment on this, that Baba just walked past us in such a fast way, and we never realized that this is that he was giving us a sort of sign that this was his final passing away from our midst, his physical passing away. Yeah. Because I don't think most of them never saw Baba in the physical form again. So a few were called later for a program, but that was very few were called. So for most it was the last.
Somehow this brings to mind some of the stories that one hears from some of Baba's lovers after he dropped his body, where they just saw for a moment Baba walking past, as though they could only had time to be aware that he was there, and already he's gone. And it almost seems like Baba in the lives of, well, I'll speak for myself sometimes, where if I wake up to pay attention for him, up on him, he's like there and gone.
Well, in eternity it's just a flash all the while. And it's not even a flash, as Baba says. It's all absolute illusion. It just hasn't occurred. Nothing has ever happened and nothing will ever happen. But our mind refuses to accept anything beyond time and space. So we just take these as so many words, and it doesn't sink in more than skin deep.
And it goes on and on and on. The illusion just keeps on going on and on.
The pattern is so fastly changing that it never allows you to concentrate on the reality. It just keeps you focused on the surface until one gets the maturity and penetrates that and realizes that it's just illusion. So then Baba just left. There was of course no farewell or anything at Ban Gardens. It was just straight from Guru Prasad and back to Meherazad. And Baba's seclusion continued undisturbed at Meherazad. The routine would always be there of Baba wanting to remain undisturbed. And it once rolled on, and eventually it was almost the end of the year, and there was a sort of complacency about things, and suddenly people were given a rude shaking in the form of an earthquake. The first major earthquake in an area which was supposed to be seismically dead, the Deccan Plateau.